This is Austin Smallwood, your SCR Director of Legal and Regulatory Affairs, to go over the upcoming changes to SCR Form 505. This is the companion document to SCR Form 504, so the buyer sale contingency. So if you look at SCR Form 504, in paragraph 4, when the seller has accepted a backup contract, they're going to prompt the buyer to make a few decisions. This is going to be the form for that. So as soon as you get to the portion of Form 504 that it gets to paragraph 4 and you have to make those choices, start using SCR Form 505. Those forms are supposed to be used in concert with each other. So the first thing that's going to happen is the seller is going to deliver this to the buyer saying one of two things. Hey, either we've accepted a backup contract, you are now obligated to choose one of those four options from SCR Form 504, and here's a redacted subsequent copy of that contract that we're going to show you to prove that we actually have a subsequent contract. Or the seller could say, hey, we took a backup contract, we still like your contract more, and you're still in primary position, but we want to let you know that you have a backup contract. If this first option is checked, where we're now going to go through the timetable in 504, the buyer is going to have to make a few options. And these match up perfectly with those that are listed in paragraph 4 of SCR Form 504. So the first three are, these are the options for the buyer to remain in primary position. So this is if the buyer checks one of these three boxes and can prove the contents of one of these next three boxes, then this current buyer cannot be moved out of their primary position. The first is that, hey, we're still under contract to close on our property by that buyer sales deadline. The only thing we're waiting on is financing. Again, the contingency for financing is on there because on the SCR contract, that financing contingency runs through closing. And to prove that, we're going to give you SCR Form 500 along with a redacted copy of the contract for the sale of the property that we're trying to sell. Or we're going to show you, hey, we'll actually drop our sales contingency because we either can show you we have cash, verification cash, or we can get a loan approval. Essentially, we can afford 2 mortgages. So the buyer can remain in primary position if they are under contract with the only contingency being financing on their current home. They can show that they can pay cash or that they can afford 2 mortgages. If they cannot prove one of these three, then we're going to go to these next options. This is where they will not remain the primary contract. They can then either decide to swap places with this new offer on this new backup contract and become the backup contract themselves, or they can say, hey, we're just going to terminate by delivering those using SCR Form 313. Again, since that is a notice of document and not the release, that will not handle the earnest money. So I would also I'd recommend sending at the same time SCR Form 518 to try to see if you can handle that earnest money issue at the same time. If the buyer doesn't make a choice or does not deliver by the deadline, then either party can terminate the contract by delivering SCR Form 313. And a reminder, of course, that even though a buyer has gone under contract, that a seller can continue to market the property and can accept backup contracts at any time. And if a seller does accept a backup contract, then Form 505 will need to be used. So make sure that you're aware of the changes that are here. Again, we added 2 buyer lines, 2 seller lines. So these are the changes to SCR Form 505 that will be used in concert with SCR Form 504. So anytime a buyer needs to sell their current home in order to buy their new home that they're trying to buy, make sure that they're using 504 and then making the appropriate choices on 505 should it come to that because a seller has accepted a backup contract. If you have any questions on this form or any other form in the SCR Forms library, give us a call on the legal hotline, 803-772-5206.